What's happening? Yo, yo, yo. It's the MMA Analyst back at it again. First of all, let me thank all you guys for showing me, the new guy, some completely non-homo, manly handshake type love. You know what I'm talking about. It keeps me going. It keeps things fresh. It keeps me energized, revitalized. You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, this is my preview and breakdown, if you want to call it, to UFC Silva versus Irvin. I'm going to start right from the bottom and work my way to the top. And I'm only going to break down the main card. However, I did notice some real cool things about the undercard. And I also want to give my opinion as to the event in general. All right, let's get right down to it. First fight, Cain Velasquez versus Jake O'Brien. Cain 3-0. He's got all of his fights ending by knockout. He's a strong and powerful Pac-10 wrestler. He was Wrestler of the Year at Arizona State in 2005. He's really only had one fight go past the halfway mark of round one. He's entertaining. He's explosive. He finishes fights. He's the kind of guy the UFC is looking for. He looked real impressive against Brad Morris at UFC 83 in Montreal, and he trains out of American Kickboxing Academy. All right, he'll be facing Jake O'Brien. Jake O'Brien is 10-1, with his only loss coming to Andrei Arlovsky in Andrei's last fight for the UFC. The way this fight was kept so below the radar, it wouldn't have been even detected on sonar. I mean, they kept this on hush. They're like, Andrei Arlovsky's leaving, and they just put the lockdown on this one here. Anyways, Jake O'Brien, very strong, very young. He's a wrestler, and oddly enough, he wins by technical knockout or knockout. I really like this matchup. It's like they had the same fighter. One had a little bit more experience, and they said, let's have them butt heads and, see who prevails. Jake's last two fights were against Heath Herring and Arlovsky. The Herring fight was a boring win, where he repeatedly took Herring down, kept him down, and, did that for the whole fight. But I think this is a different type of matchup. These guys both have the same strengths. It could end up like a clinch fest, where they try and wait for the other guy to make a mistake, repeatedly attempt the takedown, defend the takedown, and nothing happens. But I don't know. I think this is going to deliver. O'Brien was dropped after his last fight with Arlovsky, and then they brought him back, and I'm glad they did. So I think he'll be looking to impress, and I don't think he'll try and wrestle his way to victory here. I see the pressures that he's facing, probably pushing him to try and finish the fight. And same with Cain. He's going to want to continue his winning ways. He's going to want to get a big win here. Tough fight to call, especially with Jake O'Brien with 10-1. But I'm going to go with Cain on this one. They both got a lot to prove. I'm going to go with Cain. I don't know, maybe eking out a decision. If it's not a decision for Cain, I'm thinking like a first round TKO. It's going to be a good fight. All right, number 2, CB Dollaway versus Jesse Taylor. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Jesse Taylor, he's 6-2. He'll be making his UFC debut. You know what I'm talking about. He was, I call him Jesse kicked out the window and still used the limo door Taylor. He was the Ultimate Fighter finale guy that didn't get to fight in the Ultimate Fighter finale because basically he went King Kong on Vegas. Dana called him back up, and he's getting the shot he always wanted. He's an All-American wrestler. He trains with Team Quest, like Dan Henderson, Thierry Sokaju, and Mayhem Miller. He's here to prove he belongs. He's facing, one of the guys that they thought he would be facing in the finals of Season 7 in CB Dollaway. Now, CB is 6-1, and he's 0-2, however, against Amir Sadallah. Now, let me go on record in saying that I think CB Dollaway might be the only human with cauliflower lip. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That upper lip is all just I don't know how that looks, but you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, even though only one of his losses to Amir counted on his pro record, regardless, he hopes to keep that his only loss. CB is also a very very strong wrestler, and after his tap out in the tough finale, he's looking to show this is his home and this is where he should be in the UFC. This is another wrestler versus wrestler matchup. Um, I really thought CB was better than he was, or at least I thought he was better than I think he is now, all throughout the Ultimate Fighter season. And then that semi-final match against Amir, he was getting completely owned. He gassed real fast. Amir just couldn't defend the takedowns. Once he did take him down, he laid and prayed, and he prayed and he laid, and in the end, I mean, really, thank God Amir got that submission, because it was a real bad fight for CB. Unfortunately, in what I predict to be the most boring fight of the night, I've got Jesse winning this by superior conditioning and superior training. Um, the instruction and experience that he's getting at Team Quest, I mean, it's gonna show up here. It's gonna reward him basically with what I think will be 15 minutes of clinch, fight for the takedown, get the takedown, hold the takedown, ref stands it back up, and repeat that until unanimous decision victory. Hopefully, I am proven wrong here. You know what? This is good matchmaking that I think will basically go wrong. All right, up next we've got Anthony Rumble Johnson against Kevin Burns. Anthony Johnson is 5-1 with his solo loss coming to Rich Clemente. Rumble says he came out in bad shape. Everybody knows he took the fight on very, very short notice. And since that loss, he came back with one of the most vicious beatdowns I've seen in a while over Tommy Spear, the Ultimate Fighter finale runner-up for Season 6. A lot of hype has followed since that absolute dismantling. The fact is, Anthony Rumble Johnson is young, he's powerful, he's exciting to watch, and really, I think he's got a cool nickname. Anyways, he'll be facing Kevin Burns. Kevin Burns is 6-1. In his last fight, he tapped out Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and world champion Juan Carneiro. Now, this may sound impressive, but it sounds even more crazy when you consider that Burns is a blue belt and Carneiro is just a monster on the ground. He came out, he fought hard, he fought for 3 rounds, and he got that very nice submission. Now, I think it's time for a purple belt. Who knows? Maybe Horan didn't take him serious, but he took the fight and he lost the fight, and Burns pulled out a real nice upset, and he's facing another tough opponent in Rumble Johnson. But I think that Anthony Rumble Johnson is tough in every way that Carneiro isn't. He's a stand-up fighter. He's not going to take this to the ground, and he's got great wrestling and great takedown defense. He stuffed Tommy Spear like Matumbo. He just came through, bow, put the big no on it. And I think Johnson's going to be able to keep this on his feet, and I think he's going to finish Burns early and destructively. I pick Anthony Rumble Johnson to knock dude out, and I expect the knockout of the night. I really like this matchup. I'm liking all the matchups. They're doing a real good job with matchups. I'm going somewhere with this, though. Next up, we got Brandon the Truth Vera versus Andy Reese. Man, what am I talking about? It sounds like Andy Reese because, Reese is the last name, Andy's the first name, but no. The dude's name is Reese Andy. Reese Andy is 7-1 with 4 fights going to the decision. He's one of the 4 fighters on this card who's previously fought in the IFL. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, and he's making his UFC debut. Interesting note, he's got a win over Justin Levens, who's fighting the same night on the Affliction card. Anyways, he's never faced anybody in the caliber of Brandon the Truth Vera, and that's who he's facing on July 19th. Brandon Vera started his 8-2 record with an 8-0 winning streak with big wins over Amir, Asurio Silva, Justin Eilers, and back in the day, Mike Whitehead, another guy fighting on the banned card. When it came to his biggest tests, literally and figuratively, he lost to Tim Sylvia. Then in another big test, he lost to Werdum and carried on like a little kid. That was frustrating to me. I mean, you can't take 28 straight shots under the mount and then expect for the ref to just count down the remaining 15 seconds of the round. I mean, unless you're Kimbo. Y'all know. Let me just skip that. Anyways, he got up. He got mad where Doom wouldn't give him the immediate rematch that he thinks he deserved, and he called the referee garbage, and he was just throwing a hissy fit all over the place. I mean, this is what I remember. I remember Brandon the Truth Vera saying, "Don't believe the hype. Believe what you see." And what I see right now is a guy who buckles under pressure under his toughest opponents. Either Vera is at that level he claims to be, or he isn't. Unfortunately, this match won't help decipher the truth. It was a hand-picked opponent provided by the UFC. So Vera could run around through and over him and just show some sparks. Sparks will fly. This fight shouldn't last more than a round. It really shouldn't last more than a minute and 30 seconds. I'm going to ignore the hype of this card, and maybe the truth will be revealed on another card. I got Vera by easy TKO, first half of the first round. Not at all impressed by the matchmaking here. Not even a little bit. Okay, moving on. Aramis Franca versus Frank Edgar. Frank is 18-6. His last fight went to a decision, a loss to I'm tired of being blamed for something I didn't do, Sean Shirk. As many of us know, they both tested positive for banned steroids in that fight. Franco was suspended from competition until July 5th, 2008. Right on schedule, he's back. And, hopefully, his juicing days are over. And in the past, I guess he said he had an injury, and it was kind of like to fix up his injury rather than, other types of roids where, where they just get you real big and strong. Regardless, hopefully it's in the past. He's a good fighter. And he's got wins over Spencer Fisher, Nate Diaz, Kyle Uno, and Gabe, put me back in, Rudiger. However, things always haven't been good for Franca. In 2005, he went on a 3-fight losing streak, and that was just 2 fights after losing another 2 fights in the UFC in 2004. His total tally UFC record, 5 wins, 3 losses. Of his 18 wins, 11 have come by decision, and he's looking to put himself right back in the top contention of the UFC lightweights. And to do that, he'll be facing Frank Edgar. Now, Frank Edgar is 8-1 with his lone loss coming by way of much bigger Gray Maynard. I did not expect that fight to go the way it did, but Gray Maynard was big. He was real big, and Edgar couldn't control him. If he had won that fight, he probably would be fighting for the for the lightweight title next. He racked up wins against Spencer Fisher and Tyson Griffin, and but half his wins have come by decision. And after a tough loss to Maynard, Edgar knows he's gonna have to impress the suits, or he'll be fighting on the undercard for the next UFC event against Glass Joe. Big problem. Edgar is a wrestler, and Franca is bigger. Franca threw 3 huge knees at Shirk in their last fight that would have knocked most humans out cold. he shot in, and Franca just boom threw it, landed right on the jaw, just nasty knees, and Shirk just kept with the takedown and took it down. Um, I don't know if Frankie Edgar is gonna be able to do what Shirk did. I think he's gonna go for the takedowns. I'm sorry. I think Frank is gonna throw the knee, and I think it's gonna connect, and I think it's gonna end the fight. Now that's a strange way to make a prediction, but I say going into the second round, Frank is gonna throw a knee, and it's gonna be a flying knee. It's gonna be a beautiful knee, and the fight's gonna end. Once again, great matchmaking. Two guys who need a win. Styles work together. Thumbs up, Joe Silva and Dana White. All right, now we're on to the main event. James the Sandman Irvin versus Anderson the Spider Silva. Irvin, 14-4. He's a highlight reel. He's got wins over Houston Alexander. That was a Superman punch. Terry Martin. He's got the flying knee. And then he's got losses to Thiago Silva and Mike Kyle. And he was submitted by Stephan Bonner. Now, Irvin's strong. He's entertaining. He's got KO power. And what else can I say about him other than, he's here to get tooled by the Spider. Anderson Silva is 21-4. He's 6-0 in the UFC. He ran through Henderson. He ran through Rich Franklin twice. Broke his nose again. Broke his heart. Just broke him down. Franklin is in a tough situation because of Anderson Silva, and really so is everybody else in that division. He submitted Travis Lutter. He beat down Marquardt. He just tooled Lieben. I mean, even Anderson Silva's losses are sick. Like, he lost by flying scissor heel hook to Rio Chonin, and just an amazing submission. And then he had a disqualification loss while he was in Okami's guard and just up-kicked him, just sent him into La La Land. Anderson is always entertaining. Back to his wins. While not in the UFC, he fought and beat Hayato Sakurai for the Shudo middleweight title. He's got wins over Rowan Carneiro. He's got an amazing flying knee victory against Carlos Newton. He's got wins over Jeremy Horn. He's got an elbow KO over Tony Fricklin. I mean, when I think about it, the dude's got wins with his elbow, his knees, his fist, submissions. He's all around an amazing fighter. Overall, he's a beast, and nobody in the UFC middleweight division really poses a threat to him. Maybe, like Rusamir Polaris, maybe if they fought, he might be able to take him down, maybe. And he's strong, so maybe he can lock up that leg and do something to that skinny leg, but I don't know. Somebody like Kote, he's going to get Chris Liebend, and Okami, he's just too laid back and just not as good a striker. Whoever he fights at middleweight in the UFC right now will most likely just be another notch on Anderson Silva's belt. So, to spice things up, they moved him up in weight class in what I consider to be a dumb fight. This may upset some people, but it's like this. There's no relevance or upside to this fight. If Anderson Silva beats Irvin, what does that mean? Is Irvin a top 10, 20, maybe a top 30 light heavyweight? Maybe. Now, if James Irvin goes out there and gets completely tooled by Anderson Silva, what does that mean? Nothing. He's a big guy that strikes, and he's not as good a striker as Anderson Silva. Now, if Anderson Silva goes out and loses, then what happens? Well, the whole mystique for the new UFC fans that don't really know a lot about Anderson Silva other than his dominance, that's pretty much marred, and so is his dominance in general. It's Anderson Silva, win, beating people down. Then he loses to an unranked light heavyweight. Not going to do a lot for his pound-for-pound status. I'm not liking that matchup at all. If you want to put him at light heavyweight, put him up against Chuck Liddell. Then it's an amazing fight. He fights Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell wins, no big deal, man. You just lost to one of the best light heavyweights there is. If Anderson Silva wins, well, then we've got a serious situation in the Spider. I mean, he's here at different weight classes. I mean, that's something that would get me going. It's a great card, though. A few notes. A lot of people think Dana White's scared, and he put this card on as kind of a rebuttal to the Affliction banned July 19th card. Whether he's scared or not, I don't know, but he definitely, it's very obvious that he put this on to compete or try and, snatch viewership. Dana White doesn't put on cards when Strikeforce has a show, or IFL, or Bodog, or King of the Cage. There are shows every week in MMA, and the UFC doesn't ever say, "Oh, we need to do something because those guys could be something," and they're doing something now. They're doing it with Band. They did it with Elite XC with putting exciting fights on Spike. They're trying to snatch viewership. They're trying to put something else for the MMA fans to watch, for the UFC fans to watch, and it might not be out of fear, but it's out of something. Dana White knows that what's happening in Affliction can't succeed, because if it does, it could, it maybe, in the future pose a serious threat, especially, again, with the pay that Affliction is handing out. And also the Fedor Emelianenko, Randy Couture, super crazy match that would happen in Affliction. What about the card? Do I think it's good? Do I think it's bad? Do I think it's good or bad for MMA? It's not only good, but it's a great card. First of all, more MMA the better. I'll be watching it. When? I'll get to that later. But this fight is filled. This card is filled with young, up-and-coming fighters, all on one card. I didn't discuss the undercard, but there's 6 guys on the undercard with 100% finishing percentages. Nate Luron is 8-0 with 7 submissions and 1 TKO, and he'll be fighting Johnny Reese, who is 10-0 with 8 submissions and 2 TKOs. I think this will be possibly a fight of the night, possibly submission of the night. There are 5 fighters on this card who are currently undefeated. And of the 10 fights, the fighters have compiled 75 submission victories between them. There are 7 submission fighters, a slew of wrestlers, and some really great strikers. This card really delivers on all fronts. It's a really nice, well-rounded out card. It's a good card. I'm glad the UFC's putting it on. But why does Dana believe that if I watch Affliction, I'm not going to watch the UFC the next week? Or, why can't I watch both? I mean, I watched Pride in the UFC. I watched K1 Kickboxing UFC. I watch Dream in the UFC. I watch as much MMA as I can get. And it's not like there can only be one successful organization. And I know a lot of people will say it's called, good business. But the UFC already has good business. And if Affliction became successful, the UFC would still have good business. But they wouldn't have the monopoly that they currently have. And that's what worries them. In conclusion, really, it's a great card again. For the first time in a while, I'm more interested in the smaller bouts between the no-names and the up-and-comers than the main event and the co-main event. Like I said, Silva versus Irvin has a lot of young, talented fighters, some tests for some guys who want to make some headway in the biggest organization in MMA. And with all that said, this card is getting taped and watched as soon as the Affliction card ends. So yeah, there it is, my UFC Silva versus Irvin breakdown. With the July 5th UFC card that already happened, the 2 July 19th cards, the Dream card on July 21st, Um, and a very good looking Elite XC card for the 26th. This is this pretty much concludes my preview for my second installment of the best July in MMA history. And remember, guys, MMA is important. It's important. All right, peace.